Let's talk about this hilarious league-wide crackdown taking place this week on offensive linemen because Jawaan Taylor simply did what he's always been doing his entire career, but it's now a problem since he's on the Chiefs. From there, let's talk about this Week 2 matchup against the Jags by looking at some keys to victory on both sides of the ball and much freaking more. But first, how about those? First up, there is now a league-wide crackdown happening on illegal tackle alignment starting this week per Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated. Get a load of this horse shite. On the NFL's opening night, the Thursday before last, the main talking point wasn't a one-point game between the Chiefs and Lions. Instead, it was Kansas City right tackle Jawaan Taylor's alignment and get off from the snap. The league isn't looking to sustain a repeat of that in Week 2. I mean, what are we even talking about here? Tackles all around the league have been doing this every week for years. I mean, look at this photo right here. The left tackle on the Patriots lining up so far back was actually part of the reason Dee Ford lined up offsides, but I digress. Matt Verderame then said, Dean Blandino, NFL football rules analyst for Fox Sports and former NFL vice president of officiating, told Sports Illustrated the league sent out its weekly training tape to all 32 clubs and officials, highlighting repeated illegal formation violations from various Week 1 action. So that's what's going on. But to be clear, it wasn't only Jawaan Taylor they highlighted in its weekly training tape, but the Thursday night game against the Lions is basically what sparked everything off. And the funniest part is, Jawaan Taylor has been doing this his entire career. I actually reached out to a guy who covers the Jags and asked him about Taylor's quick jump off the snap and also about him lining up a bit too deep on the line to see if that was a regular thing for Taylor to do during his time with the Jags. And he said this, yep, all the time. It was very easy to find him on the line because he was always like 2 steps off the line of scrimmage. No one paid attention in Jacksonville, though, because we had no primetime games and usually sucked. And for context, Jawaan was drafted in 2019 and was with the Jags for all 4 years of his rookie contract. So he did this for 4 years, and this was never really an issue. However, one game with the Chiefs resulted in a league-wide crackdown that is actually hilarious. Taylor was asked about this recently by PJ Green, and here's what Taylor had to say about it.
As far as the false start goes, no. I haven't had a ref even really mention it to me. Just go out there and play, but I haven't had refs mention my alignment, so just making sure I'm not too deep.
And that's the key here. If it's an issue, if he is violating the letter of the NFL law, flag him or warn him, and it's all good with me. Well, according to Jesse Newell of the KC Star, after the commentators whined, cried, moaned, and complained about it all game long, Taylor was warned second half against Detroit and finally did get flagged for it on 4th and 20 after not changing a single thing all game long. Now, do I blame the refs on the Chiefs' loss for changing a 4th and 20 to a 4th and 25? No. I do not care if the refs flag or do not flag it, warn or do not warn. My entire thing is, if it is an issue, handle it the same way league-wide in each game every single week because tackles like Jawaan Taylor, Lane Johnson, and many others do it frequently because it's a bit of a loophole and rarely called if ever. Don't believe me? Brett Kollman just put out a video titled How to Legally Cheat on Every Play.
Yeah, so fun fact, all of those false starts that made pretty much the entire country scream at their TV for 4 straight hours last week, none of those, by rule, are actually false starts, technically.
And for his full video on it, click up above. He breaks down the rules and explains his thoughts around the situation and why so many tackles have been doing this and getting away with it because if it's not flagged, it's not a penalty. Anyway, with all that being said, as a Chiefs fan, who obviously has some bias here, I can't help but find this entire situation incredibly entertaining because of the irony. Which one is it? The NFL is rigged and sets up Mahomes for easy wins, or entire league rule changes / crackdowns happens after it seemingly benefits Mahomes. You can't have it both ways. And if this was an isolated incident, I would probably be much more chill about it. But does anybody remember overtime in 2018? The Chiefs lost to the Patriots in OT and Mahomes never got to step on the field. No problem though. A few years later, however, the Chiefs beat the Bills in the 13 seconds divisional game in overtime. Josh Allen never gets to step on the field, which resulted in a league-wide overtime rule change for the playoffs. Then Jawaan Taylor is quick off the line and a little too deep for 4 years in Jacksonville. No problem. One game with the Chiefs, a league-wide crackdown. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but after the Chiefs' overtime loss in 2018, KC fought for the overtime rule change, but the Bills voted against it. Well, yeah, nobody freaking cared when it happened to the Chiefs. That's my point, because it did not benefit Mahomes, and the rule change never even got close to passing at that time. However, after the Chiefs won in 2021, the overtime rule change passed with flying colors, and the Bills voted yes, please, for the change. Now, to be clear, the Chiefs voted for it as well, and I do like the change for overtime, especially in the playoffs. I think it was needed. But the irony is something I could not let pass and had to dedicate an entire segment to this, and that's where I want to get your thoughts here. Do you also find it as entertaining and ironic as I do, or do you think it's not that big a deal and I just need to take a chill pill? Let me know either way in the comments down below. And from here, I want to thank the fantastic sponsor of today's video, Chiefs Bids, who I am personally very proud to be partnering up with for an exclusive giveaway of this signed Trent McDuffie HBTC Super Bowl 57 helmet. That's right, Trent McDuffie himself not only signed this helmet, but wrote HBTC as a personalized touch for the community, and also had to remind everyone that the Chiefs were Super Bowl 57 champs as they get ready to run it back. And I'll give you details on how you can win this helmet in just a second, but first, in case you didn't know, Chiefs Bids is accessible through the official Chiefs app and have all kinds of signed memorabilia by former and current Chiefs players that you can bid on. Some of these are even game-worn items, which is pretty freaking awesome. You just go to the app, click more, then click bids, and you are in there to see all the items they are auctioning off. They update this all the time as well, and sometimes even have mystery boxes with golden tickets to win even more signed items. That's how I actually got this signed Travis Kelce jersey, my first ever signed Kelce anything, which was an awesome experience. And just FYI, the auctions start and end at preset times that vary with a starting bid price, and when someone enters a bid, the minimum next bid level will be raised by a preset percentage. It's all pretty standard stuff, but what you are bidding on, in my opinion, is anything but standard or normal. I mean, I've gotten that signed Kelce jersey I just mentioned, as well as a signed Jamal Charles jersey, a signed Tony Richardson football, a signed Chris Jones mini helmet, and much more. So make sure, if you haven't already, to check the app regularly for all kinds of awesome signed memorabilia to bid on. Now, as far as giveaway details, here's what you've got to do for a chance to win this signed HBTC Trent McDuffie helmet. You've got to join the Chiefs Bids private Facebook group. Link is at the top of the description of this video. Wait for approval to join. It should be pretty quick. And when approved, comment the code word HBT Chiefs on their giveaway post that you'll find pinned to the top of the group's page right here in the featured section, and do this by kickoff on Sunday. And I'm going to randomly be selecting the winner on Sunday during halftime of my live stream here on YouTube as I'm calling the game against the Jags. All right, next up, let's talk about this upcoming game against the Jags as I share some key takeaways from some Chiefs coaches and also Sky Moore along the way. Special teams coordinator Dave Toub was happy with the special teams overall performance against the Lions, saying that aside from the fake punt and one short punt out of 5, the other 4 were outstanding. Everything else was solid. He also noted that it's a limited sample size, but Toub is happy with how Richie James looked as a punt returner, though they sadly didn't get an opportunity to return any kickoffs. And on the subject of kickoffs, he gave high praise to the Jags returner, Jamal Agnew, saying they got to keep their eyes on him because he's a great returner. The Jags honestly have a lot of great players on their team, especially, no shade to their defense, on the offensive side of the ball, and defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo acknowledged as much in their lead up to preparing to face off against them. I mean, yeah, they got Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. The list is long with this team. Some good news here, though, is that Spags noted Chris Jones has looked good at practice upon his return. He's well rested, and because of that, he wanted to go every play, but, quote, we had to tone it down on him. He wants to get Chris through the week and protect him accordingly, considering he just came back into the fold. They do plan on using him Sunday, but want to be smart about it. He's not going to put a number on a snap count or anything like that, but he is optimistic Chris Jones plays Sunday. Chris came back in great shape, which is no surprise to Spags or really anybody else. Quote, he's the real deal. He's blessed with some talent, and he looks like he's in shape to me. So Chris will get right in the fold, and there's plays they have for Chris being in there that they didn't have in last week without him. Another key player, in my opinion, is cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. Spags noted that LJ is still probably getting caught up to game speed considering how much time he missed during training camp and preseason, but thought he looked really good at practice and said, quote, We need him. The reason I bring Snead up is he's been limited all week in practice until I see today's injury report later today. But he should play in this game. It's just worth noting he has been limited along with Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Anyway, Spags also gave high praise to Trent McDuffie, saying he played a great game against the Lions and will definitely be a part of the game plan this Sunday. And since we're talking defense, I do think the Chiefs will need to do all they can to prevent a talented Jaguars offense from putting too many points up on the board. They got to get to Trevor Lawrence, man, which is something they did in their first matchup with him last November, sacking him 5 times. They only got to him twice in the divisional round matchup, but they were able to get an INT in both of those games. So yeah, this is game number 3 against the Jags in less than a year, and Spags will need to have a solid game plan ready. I am excited about Chris Jones being back though, which will certainly help them get after an already banged up O-line. I believe their center and right guard will play Sunday, but they won't be at 100%, and on top of that, their left tackle is still currently suspended, and if there's a game for the D-line to wreak some havoc, it's gonna be this one. Another thing they need to do is keep tabs on their beast of a running back, Travis Etienne, who managed roughly 100 yards from scrimmage week 1 against the Jags win over the Colts. The good thing here is the Chiefs have done a good job with handling Etienne in their last 2 matchups, only allowing an average of 76.5 yards from scrimmage and approximately half a touchdown. He got a touchdown in one game, not in another. Another thing the defense needs to do is help the Jags continue their trend of struggling on third downs. Small sample size, but week 1, they were 3 for 12 on third downs with 2 turnovers against the Colts. Meanwhile, the Chiefs held up well against the Lions on third down, only allowing them to go 5 of 15, and they did force a turnover in the red zone. So there are definitely a few things the Chiefs need to be aiming to do, as well as cover the middle of the field a bit better. I feel like Goff and company exploited the defense in the middle of the field at times, and the Jags will be ready to do the same if Kansas City isn't careful. And before we flip to the other side of the ball for week 2 in Jacksonville, Matt Nagy recently spoke to the media, noting that the loss to the Lions was just one game, and the wide receiver room knows they can be better, but also know the coaches and Mahomes believe in them. He also has no concerns at all that Sky will be able to bounce back and have a great year, one game at a time, and the same goes for Kadarius Toney. Sky himself spoke to the media and noted that he felt like it was just a lack of focus in the wide receiver room. It wasn't their best performance and things need to get better. He also shared about the last play of the game. It broke into a scramble drill and Sky tried to find space. He kind of hesitated a little bit at the end once the ball was thrown up because of how close Justin Watson and his defender were, as he wasn't exactly sure who it was being thrown to. Quote, "It was a whole weird scenario." Sky said he came close to catching that ball and then said he should have caught it. Quote, "So on to Jacksonville," meaning he can't dwell on it anymore and he's got to move forward. He did say the mood of the wide receiver room has been good. They've moved on, had a great week of practice, and are preparing for the Jags. Before we move on though, the other struggles for KC was the lack of converting on third downs and an inability to establish an effective run game. And regarding the run game, Nagy said that is a focus for them to have solid execution with the ideal goal of averaging over 4 yards per carry or somewhere around there. Then you have Mahomes, who scrambles when necessary as well. However, I felt his answer a bit lackluster in the aspect of not being honest about the run game, simply falling short and the team needing to do better there. Some potential good news here, though, is that Nagy thought Kelce is looking good in practice, which is nice to see, but they are preparing for both scenarios, having Kelce play or having him not play. And I'm not fully sure either yet which way things will go for Travis. He's critically important to the offense, but at the same time, I would hate to see him rushed out there and get injured further because he wasn't quite ready. The good news here is he looks like he's moving around nice at practice and said in his podcast that he's feeling much better. In the divisional matchup against the Jags, Kelce had 98 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, so he is definitely a key to the offense if he is ready to go, and if not, everybody else is simply going to have to step up, catch the passes thrown their way, please, and make it happen. It's got to be a better performance than week 1 against the Lions, no ifs, ands, or buts. They also need to be prepared to be flagged for false starts, as well as protect Mahomes from Josh Allen, the defensive end, who had as many sacks in the Colts game as Josh Allen, the quarterback, had against the Jets. 3. They also have the former first overall pick on the D-line in Trayvon Walker. So if they can keep Mahomes protected and both ankles healthy, please, that would be preferred. From there, they just need to play a clean game. Catch passes, try to establish the run. Pacheco had nearly 100 yards rushing against them when they played each other in the divisional round, and do better than 5 of 14 on third downs, which is what they had against the Lions. I truly believe Mahomes was going to put up 40, at least 40 on the Jags last time they played before his ankle got really jacked up, and I see no reason why they can't put up a good amount of points this go round as well, with or without Travis Kelce. Now, since recording this video, the final injury report came out. Andy Reid also spoke to the media. He said Clyde Edwards-Helaire illness and Nick Bolton, excused for personal reasons, did miss today's practice, but he noted that Chris Jones and Travis Kelce did a good job at practice, and as long as nothing happens, they'll be out there Sunday against the Jags, which is great freaking news, although it's worth noting that both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Travis Kelce are both on the final injury report as questionable. So not sure how much Clyde will play if he's still sick, but it looks like we will for sure at least see Travis Kelce out there in some capacity, as well as Chris Jones. On top of that, Andy Reid hasn't lost to the Jags since 2006 when he was with the Eagles. He beat them in 2010 with the Eagles, then in 2013, 16, 18, 19, and twice in 2022 with the Chiefs. So that is 7 games in a row full of W's, and I would love to make it 8. And with all that being said, I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning this game 27-24. Hopefully it's not that close, considering the Chiefs defense has held the Jags to 20 or less in their last 2 matchups, but I'm pretty impressed with the Jags offense and think they are definitely better than last year with Ridley out there, even though they did struggle a bit against the Colts, but we have no room to talk as Chiefs fans when it comes to the Colts. Anyway, Mahomes also rarely loses 2 games in a row and normally bounces back. For example, after the Chiefs' 3 losses last year, the following games, they put up 41 points, 44 points, and then 34 points after their losses, and they didn't lose 2 games in a row. So that's how I'm looking at this game against a great Jags team. A bounce-back game for Mahomes in which they rise to the occasion and get the job done. Let me know your thoughts on all that, though, as well as your score predictions and keys to victory in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?